You have to be honest in your assessment about what you bring to the table. Okay. Because I could tell you that, let's just exaggerate it. I'm spitting all over the place. Let's exaggerate it and say, man, like, I want to be a pro football player. Yep. Well, it's pretty obvious that I don't bring that set of talent to the table. Okay. And so me forcing my way into that, pretty much it's going to be seen that I'm a fish out of water. Okay. I'm in the wrong place. Right. Even though somehow I got skewed into thinking this would be it. And this often happens with younger guys because they somehow bought a lie. They thought the idea of, I would do great. Like, I'd love to make the money that the salesman makes. And so he lands this sales job, and he quickly finds out he has no salesmanship in him. Right. Okay. And so, no, I don't need to run from that. I just need to go, I suck at selling things. Okay. And so I'm a fish out of water.
Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for joining us as a sponsor. Quality Auto Mart was born in 1985. They are owned and operated by Mark and Nancy Repke. Quality Auto Mart provides all the services, repairs, and maintenance for your vehicle's needs with a 3-year auto parts and labor warranty. They offer complimentary vehicle safety inspection and estimates. Also, they offer a shuttle service, and the 4th oil change is always on them. They are located at 7307 on State Road 46 in Batesville, Indiana. Make sure you give them a call at 812-934-2301. All right, hey guys, welcome back to Strong Dad.
Wow.
Every time I just start really high,
I just pop those microphones.
Yes. Anyways, we're back here doing another awesome show. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Merle, we got an exciting show today. I'm excited about it, and also not so much.
Yeah. Well, this is a good show because, again, we're leading into October.
That's right.
When we're going to start our Strong Dads Doing Real Life. Yep. And part of that is actually seeing guys in their element. And when we talk about their element, we mostly mean, or a good part of that is their work element, their occupation, their career. Yep. So, and, that's one of the things that in my work and working with a lot of men, jobs and careers frequently come up.
Oh yeah.
They come up all the time. They're either, oh no, like I talked to a guy the other day and he's like, no man, like I love my job. And then, but way too often I get guys, I don't really care much for my job, or I'm looking to get out or something like that. So jobs, especially because you spend, a third of your life there, man, if it sucks,
Do you think
your life can suck?
Do you think that the idea of and we'll talk a lot about it, but the idea of like almost finding some form of identity in your job, do you think that's just here in America, like a societal thing, or do you think that's like just a man thing?
Well, I don't know about just outside of this country because I've not visited too many others. But what I guess I would say to that is, we've talked before about men are doers. We're action figures, right? And so because of that, we identify by our actions. Yeah, so I would say that it's pretty common that we would say, hey, if you're going to ask me who I am, I might say I'm a carpenter, I'm a fireman, I'm a, again, not to take away from other parts of our life, but that's a big part of how we would identify ourselves.
That's true. Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Food for thought for the day.
You ever hated a job?
Whoa.
Like just flat out, like
right out of the gate,
like,
just getting after it.
I just hate this job. You ever hated it?
Well, I've been in the fire world for coming up on 16 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Man, hate is a strong word though. I'm gonna say there's parts of my job that I would prefer to not do and or don't like as much as others. But I will be honest, I love what I get to do. I love what I get to do. Especially prior to being in the fire service, I was in the food industry, which was very good to me, and I worked at La Rosa's and Skyline, and that was a lot of fun. So again, hate is a strong word. There's parts of all my jobs that I've had. I worked in the construction. I hated lifting sheets of plywood up to OSB up to 5/8 inch sheets of 4x8 sheets of plywood or OSB up to the guys up on the roof. I hated that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that I hated that.
Move these 50 sheets down from the ground.
We need you to move them from over there to over there, so that way. I hated that part. But I would say, I think I've been very fortunate in that sense that the jobs I've had, especially the job I currently have, I find a lot of value and a lot of purpose in my job. So no, I have not hated my job.
Okay.
I dislike parts of it. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I probably have to agree with you with the word hate. Like that's, I think there's also a difference between separating, hating, like your occupation versus maybe the particular job that you're working at, maybe a certain employer. I mean, if you are a fireman and you don't like your current firehouse, that doesn't mean you don't like being a fireman. It just might mean your environment's not conducive to the type of work you like to do. So,
right, that's true.
So I think you do have to kind of separate some of those. So yeah, I've never really hated a job, and I've done just a variety of different things. Sometimes I've come to the end of jobs and go, I'm glad that season's ending.
Right.
Like when I was in the school world, I never hated that job at all. But I was ready for that season to come to a close.
Sure.
'Cause I was just looking for new things, but I could never use the word hate. So,
yeah.
But anyway, I do think I struggled at times with the old grass is greener on the other side of the fence. There are times when you get into a rut or whatever, and you're like dreaming like, man, it'd probably be better if I were at this location, or if I had this role at this location I'm at. And sometimes I went after the greener grass and found out that you still had to water and mow that one too. So
there's still poison ivy on that side too.
Yeah,
right? There's still weeds.
Yeah.
So. Well, yeah. So I think just like you were saying, it's really cool. Kind of as we're getting ready to jump into the October months and getting ready to into the new, that we're going to roll out the new Strong Dads doing real life. I think the hope is as we kind of lead into that. I think it'll be really cool for us as men to watch other men doing their jobs and seeing the joy that they get out of their jobs, and hopefully kind of almost like reinvigorate us, kind of inspire us to go to our job and maybe have that new mindset based off of some of the guys that we're going to be talking to and you guys are going to get to watch. So I think these shows are kind of all preparing for that kind of the new rollout we're going to do here. So excited to get into that, excited to get out there and talk to you guys, to you men, about what you do and why you do it and kind of the purpose behind showing up every day. Because again, I think it's very easy for men because we do so much, we put so much value in our actions, and we in a lot of ways identify by what we do and who we are. And I think, because of that, there's a lot of pressure on us men. And I think, that's how we get in the sayings of, same stuff, different day. And we get stuck in these ruts and hopefully, by going out and talking to you guys and we'll try and hopefully get out of that way, kind of get out of our own way and see that, man, there's purpose in what we do by showing up every day. We can bring value in that, the kind of just, the attributes that come along with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's thank our sponsors, and then we're going to get into how do you take your dead job and turn it into a dream job, right? Like, what do you need to do that? Otherwise, you could start to die on the vine here of your career. So Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for being a sponsor of the Strong Dads podcast. So we want to thank those guys over at Quality Auto Mart, which is located outside of Batesville, Indiana on Route 46. So for all your automotive and golf cart needs, check out Quality Automotive Mart or Auto Mart. Sorry about that there, guys. Messed that up.
Yeah, Strong Dads, we would also love to thank Casey Outdoor Solutions. Thanks so much for them coming alongside of us. Awesome gardening center. They got the home decor. Check them out. They got an incredible facility. You can't miss it over on State Line Road. Let them know we sent you up there. Really do appreciate them.
All right. So you asked me a question before about do all men, across the globe, is it common that guys identify by their career, their job? And, I think that the church answer is if you say, how do you identify? The church answer is, well, I'm a child of God,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all I need.
Right.
And all right, like I hear what you're saying, but the real answer
Yep.
is, because we spend so much time in it, we can glorify God by acknowledging what it is that we do for a living. Because when I actually see, hey, I've got the skills and the talents that are God-given to be that fireman, or to be that counselor, or to be that construction worker. And so the idea that I glorify God through my work identity, and so I think that the key here is us recognizing, no, the reason why loving your job is important is because it's also showing and honoring what God gave you. All right. And so that's why I don't want to separate the two. Yeah, you're still a child of God, but at the end of the day, he gave you certain resources. And if you're not using those well, there's a good chance you're not a happy individual.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So again, I think identity is extremely important. And I think even more important to that is linking it back to God. Like, I am identified as connected to God because he gave me these gifts and talents.
Well, I think that brings up a great point, because I know, different parts of my career, and we'll talk about, I've been burnt out before, and I've dealt with, just the daily grind, as I'm sure a lot of you are, and have dealt with before. And I think I have gone back to, just kind of my thoughts and my prayers, and like, God, where do you want me to be at, right? and I quickly realized I am convinced at my core that God made me to be a fireman. I find so much value and purpose in it. And it's like you get stuck in these ruts, and I think taking that step back and realizing that the job you have and the job that you're in, man, if you truly, if you spend time praying and inviting God into that, I think you'll quickly realize that God's giving you certain gifts that are allowing you to be in the position you're in. Like, because I feel like God made me to be a fireman. I love doing what I do.
Yeah. So let's say, though, that you are doing what you do, but over a time you're losing your zest or your spirit, your spunk for doing that. Okay. And I think that's a very common thing that all people, and especially us guys, will go through. We'll get to this lower point. And I want to just address that for a second, because if you're listening to this show and you're like, yeah, they're kind of hitting a nerve with me where I'm not quite where I want to be, we really do want to differentiate between what might actually be happening. And so there's two different things I think that we can explore. One is actual depression. All right. And especially we get guys middle age, older. Depression is very real. I experience it every day in the work that I do with people. And so depression, though, is compared to the other word I want to throw out is burnout. Okay. And so there's a big difference between the two, and they're treated completely differently. And that's why I want to bring this up, because if you're truly suffering from depression is a chronic situation that involves actually change in brain chemistry. Yeah. And if I'm truly depressed, it doesn't matter where I'm at, whether I'm at home, at work, out with the kids, this depression is there. Okay. And so, and typically, and that relates to the idea that we've got some dopamine malfunctions in the brain chemistry. Burnout is different. Burnout is situation or environmentally connected. Okay. So I'm going to the same old stuff every day, right? I'm in a rut. I'm tired of doing this stuff. But when I remove myself from that environment or that workplace, now, like, I love hunting. I love fishing. I love the golf course. Yeah. But man, when I go to work, okay. So there's a difference, and we have to distinguish those because of how we would treat it.
Okay. Right? Yeah. So talk about the treatment part of that.
Yeah. So the treatment is something, if I'm dealing with depression, I'm going to seek out professional help. We got a medical condition here. It's medically diagnosed. All right. And so that could be anything from therapy. It could be medicine. It could be a combination of the two. It could be lifestyle changes. So there's all kinds of things that are associated with clinical depression. Okay. Burnout comes from us starting to change the idea of the job that we're doing. That could be I changed the job, I changed the location, or I changed my mindset. We did an entire show on mindset. I changed like how I'm even viewing this particular job that's getting me in the rut. Okay. So it very likely is not involving medications and therapies, although coaching and things like that can come in handy, because sometimes you have to have somebody say, hey, dude, I think it's time for you to do something different. Okay. But it's very different in terms of how you approach it.
Yeah, man, that's good. That's good stuff. So, I mean, let's talk again. We're trying to get ourselves out of that kind of the dead job and start looking towards the dream job, and maybe where you're currently at, you currently see it as a dead job. Like, let's try and begin to move towards either seeing that as the dream job or moving towards something, to get to that place of the dream job. So I think as we start to talk about that, the first thing we have to talk about is really kind of what is looking at your interest, right? So looking at your job, so why there had to be something when you first started this job that you were excited about. Something about that job intrigued you to want to jump into that. Again, we're not talking, you're just graduating high school and you're doing just a job, to make basically to pay for whatever your date nights, right?
Right.
We're talking about actually getting into the idea of your career and kind of moving into finding that dream job. So I think it's really important to, like, whatever job you're in or whatever job you're hoping to get into, there's got to be something there similar to when you first get married, right? There's something about that person you were with that made you fall in love, right? There's got to be something that you see in your job, that initial interest that kind of piqued your interest with this job that we need to kind of go back to and maybe revisit a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this. At least identify why you took the job.
Yeah.
Because if you took the job because, man, I had a real interest in doing this particular task or whatever is associated with it, okay, I just need to identify that. If I took the job as just a means to an end, no, man, I had to take the job because I was tight on money and I just needed something in the moment.
Yeah.
Neither one is right or wrong, but
Sure.
you have to identify why you took it, because one of them might just be that and that's a means to an end. And that's, you talked about like when we're younger, my job at McDonald's or working at the grocery store bagging groceries. Taking that job is not bad or wrong
Sure.
or anything. But did it satisfy what you took it for in
Yeah.
the moment?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, when you are done satisfying that, yeah, you know what? It helped me get some money. I was able to buy that car, but it satisfied its job.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of lived out its season.
That's right.
You talked about it before. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you stay in that job after it's lived out its season, there better be some interesting reason why you're staying there.
Yeah.
You know what? I come to find out that I really like grocery store work, or I really like restaurant work, Well,
Right.
then we go a completely different route. But if we recognize we've exhausted that season, okay, cool. Just call it what it is.
Right. Yeah. And I think as you kind of keep moving through this idea that, man, I think you have to look at the job that you're in. And again, we're trying to get out of this dead job mindset and kind of into moving into a dream job, not necessarily a mindset. It all goes to be physically into the dream job. But man, you have to look at the job that you're in right now. And there's got to be certain traits, certain talents that this job basically almost requires, right? And if you don't possess those, then you're going to feel out of place. You're not going to feel like you're in that dream job because, man, if I'm in the fire world and I don't have a heart for service and a heart for sacrificing my time, like the fire service ain't going to be it, right? Because the fire service requires a lot of my time, 24 hours around the clock, right? And if I can't get my mind, if I don't have those abilities to really understand, like I'm sacrificing my time, like I'm not going to thrive. I'm not going to enjoy being in the firehouse at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. The idea that you have to be honest in your assessment about what you bring to the table, okay? Because I could tell you that, let's just exaggerate it. I'm spitting all over the place. Let's exaggerate it and say, man, like I want to be a pro football player.
Yep.
Well, it's pretty obvious that I don't bring that set of talent to the table, okay? And so me forcing my way into that, pretty much it's going to be seen that I'm a fish out of water. Okay. I'm in the wrong place.
Right.
Even though somehow I got skewed into thinking this would be it. And this often happens with younger guys because they somehow bought a lie they thought the idea of, man, I would do great. Like, I'd love to make the money that the salesman makes. And so he lands this sales job, and he quickly finds out he has no salesmanship in him.
Right.
Okay. And so, no, I don't need to run from that. I just need to go, I suck at selling things. Okay. And so I'm a fish out of water. So you better assess whether you even bring the skills or the necessary tools to the table.
Right. And I think, not necessarily challenging that, but I think there is something. So in the fire world, there's no way around it, right? It is a physically demanding job. You have to physically be able to do a job, just like in NFL. You have to kind of be physically fit, right? I think those are definitely attributes that you have to have. And if you don't, I'm not the biggest, strongest guy, right? But I have a desire to learn the techniques. I have the desire to want to know how to, the guy I work with, Joey, he can swing this axe one time and get through that door. It may take me 3 or 4 hits, right? But I'm going to stick to the technique. So I think yes, there is something about saying like, they're just physical attributes. Certain jobs require you, but man, there are ways around that. And again, the NFL might not be the best example because we're talking the elite of the elite, right? But in my world, in the fire world, it's like, again, I'm not the biggest, strongest guy, but I have grown to really appreciate and really understand the techniques required in order to do the same job that the big, strong guy have. But again, if I'm not willing to, if that's not an attribute that I have, the willingness to go in and the fine details and that techniques, the fire world's probably not going to work for me.
If you're lacking the desire to improve. Yeah. All right. So the next area, like if you guys are finding, that you're in this conversation in your head about your job, it's important that you go through and you name out what it is you like about your current job and what it is that you don't like. Just name it. Like, I don't like the idea that I'm always working night shift. I don't like the idea that I have to answer to this person, or I like the idea that I get to run this particular machine. Like name the things that are attractive to you and the things that basically burden you. You got to name those, but then you got to go to the next step. And the next step is, once you've listed them, go to your list and look at the things that are weighing you down, that are burdens, and say, what level of control do I have over these things? All right. I've got to know. So part of joy in our work is knowing what we have control over. And some things you just flat out will realize, I don't really have a lot of control over that. Okay. And other things you might realize, I have more control over that than maybe I recognized or I wanted to give credit to. So recognizing your level of control over the things that you like and you don't like is really important, because that's where the power for opportunity to change will come from.
Right. Yeah. And I also think that this is where, and I'm speaking to myself here, this is where, for me, this is where the victim card, I try and play the victim card sometimes, because I feel like there's so much stuff that's out of my control, which is why I'm frustrated at a job. And so I begin to be like, woe is me, right? I can sit around the kitchen table at the firehouse and sit there and bitch and complain about whatever the case may be. And it's like, okay, well, if all the stuff that I dislike about my job are out of my control, maybe it is time to try and let's start evaluating. Okay, let's make another list of potential other places to go, other firehouses to go, other departments in whatever divisions and wherever you work at, that where you feel like there is more control. But again, I think it's just natural for men to want to have control over the stuff that's going on in our life. And again, maybe that's a pride issue. It's not maybe, that's a pride issue, right? Like, I want to have control over this. I feel like I could do a better job than my boss, right? I'm sure many of you guys have said that before. So it's like, instead of getting stuck as the woe is me and the victim mentality that all this stuff is out of my control, well, what is in your control is where you work at, right? Again, there's certain there's financial obligations that are associated with where we all work, and that's a part of our job. We can't get around that. But again, man, let's start looking at maybe different departments, different firehouses. Like, there are things that are in our control that we can't control, and let's use those to get ourselves out of this dead job mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, how many times on this show have we stressed the idea that we on Strong Dads here do not accept that we are stuck in victimhood.
Yep.
And so if I have somebody who's whining and complaining about a bad situation with their career, it's either, locate what you can control within the career that you're in, and let's see what you can make the change on. If not, just as you said, okay, it's time to make the big, bold step, and that is to go out. But doing nothing and sitting and complaining and going from burnout to even depression because it now turns chronic, to us, it's not acceptable. And it's not acceptable to God because it's spitting in God's face. It's like, I made you for something a whole lot better than this. Why are you playing in this arena when I've got an arena over here waiting for you?
Yep. I got to throw this in there because it's been like my, I don't know, it's been going on in my mind like constantly right now. So recently I heard, and it's actually 11 years ago he put it out. Jocko Willink, as you guys, I'm sure most of you men know, and I shared when I did a little show in my shop of the 2 books that I read of his. But he has a thing on YouTube. It's called Good. And he talks all about this of instead of he basically talked like in the military, he had a subordinate come up to him and was complaining about things just weren't going right. And Jocko's response to them was good. And then the subordinate came back to him and was like, I already know what you're going to say. The mission didn't go good. He's like, I know what you're going to say. And Jocko's like, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good, because that's what you always say. And he talked, and then he goes on this long spiel about how, okay, you didn't get the promotion you wanted. Good. There's time for opportunity. There's time for learning. There's time to get better, right? You didn't get the new job. Good. Things aren't going good in your job. Good. And he talks all about this, again, trying to get out of this mindset, trying to get out of this victim mentality that woe is me. Because again, I find myself sometimes in this, I can sit around and be like, Jenny, things just aren't going good at work. This sucks, right? It's like, good. Like, let's do something about it then.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes the jet fuel for change.
Yes.
Unless you let your jet run out of fuel.
Yeah.
And then you sit there grounded on the runway.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about then, okay, so I do want to make some changes. So how do I find my right job? Okay. How do I move to this? And so here are a few things that will help all of us get to that right place. And the first thing is, it relates back a little bit to what we talked about before. Be very clear, especially as you get older and you've been out and you've been, received some experience. Identify your strengths and your interest. I mean, if I can really say, compared to the average dude, I'm better at this. But I also, not only am I better or have a talent, but I also have an interest. Sometimes you could be good at something, but you're really not that interested. And so we don't force interest on somebody, all right? Interest is something that you naturally gravitate towards. So I naturally have an interest in exercise, workout type stuff. I have no clue why, okay? I have no clue why. I don't force myself, today I've got to read this or this. I just go, oh, well, that's kind of an interesting article. And I find myself gravitating. It's a natural interest. So when I can align my strengths and my interests, man, I'm at the start of a good direction.
Yeah. And this is something quite a few years ago, there was a captain at my job that told me to find something in the fire service that you are very interested, that you love, that you can become passionate about, that you are the key man that people come and ask you questions about. Because again, if you want to feel valued and feel appreciated at your job, man, dive into something that you are the key man to know about. For me, it's ground ladders. I freaking love ground ladders. I love them, right?
Which I'm clueless. Okay.
But it's really cool because when I go and teach that, or when I'm at the firehouse and I have guys know that I know what I'm talking about. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert at them, but man, I have done my research. I have gone, I want to know everything there is to know about ground ladders, because I want to be the guy that can bring value to my crew. And then my crew is like, hey, Kyle, what do you think about this ground ladder? And they begin to ask you questions, because ground ladders are a passion of mine. I love them. And I the only way I knew that, if someone was like, Kyle, you have to like ground ladders, this has to be your interest in the fire service, it wouldn't have worked. But I found it out for myself, exactly what you're talking about.
Well, when you live in your interest, you said you're not an expert, but when you live in your interest, you become an expert. Okay, because you just fill yourself naturally, where another guy may have little to no interest in the ground ladder, and he's like, I haven't spent nearly as much time thinking about this as Kyle. Let me see what Kyle thinks. Okay, so you become the expert because of the interest, and that's a driving force. The second part, guys, as you're coming through this career thing, this job change possibly, is it's time to do your research, right? I mean, it's time to actually, this is where we want to connect reality to the actual vision or the dream. So I could talk about, man, I would love to be a fighter pilot. Oh, man, that would be awesome. Okay, I could have an interest. I could have an excitement. I might even have some skills. But I know nothing about being a fighter pilot.
Yep.
And so I have to dig in, and I've got to start to connect the dots. We hear this all the time. You ask a third or fourth grade boy, what do you want to do to get when you get older? I want to be a pro something. I want to be a pro soccer, pro football, pro baseball. Okay, that's fine for a third grade boy. But at some point, you've got to do some research to connect the dots to make sure that the reality and the dream, there's some level of connectedness to that. Oh, I could actually do that. All right. Or I could live with that sacrifice in order to get to this. Like becoming a fighter pilot is not like I show up at an airport one day and I get to hop in a fighter jet. So the idea of starting to do the research and see if you actually connect your reality to this dream.
Yep. And for me, to me, that I think the best way to do research, sure, you can Google it. Man, find somebody that's in that field and talk to them. We're getting ready to jump into this new series with jumping into strong dads doing real life. If there's a guy that we're talking to and that's an interest job that you have, man, tune into that. Like call somebody and be like, hey, what's it like to be a fireman? What do I have to? What are certain attributes that I have to have? What are things that you would recommend? If I'm wanting to jump into this, what are some things that I need to kind of have in line? I think doing a research, the best way to, in my opinion, the best way to do research is to talk to somebody who is in that field, who can kind of tell you, hey, you're going to have nights where you're not going to sleep at all. You're going to have days where you're not going to see your family. These are legitimate things that when I was in fire school. No one ever told me that. No one ever said, hey, 24 hours a day, you're going to be away from your family, right? Do you know that? Like, I kind of just figured that on the fly, right? And that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. But, man, I think we're spot on here. Man, go out and do your research. Find what it is that this potential job that you're interested. Okay, again, because if we go back to the certain talents and attributes that you have, if those aren't in line with that job, you're going to feel like it's a dead-end job. And the only way you're going to know those attributes and talents that you need are to do this research.
Yeah, interview those people. All right, here's the third point. We're talking about a career here. We're talking about a long-term job. And so if I'm thinking career versus just a job to get me through a particular season, I have to get my long-term priorities right. I have to take those into account. And so long-term priority is different than the short-term. The short-term is, hey, I need a few bucks to get through for the next 6 months. Long-term is, well, what do I really value in my life? What do I want to make sure I get taken care of and I'm responsible for? And so when I take the long-term priority into mine, it changes how I'm going to approach seeking out this next job, okay? Like I could say, wow, I have a job that's offered to me that's offering me great money. And that sounds really cool. And then I have another job that's less money than I even want. But I'm really interested in that job. And I have the tools for that. A long-term play out is I'm going to take the job that's offering less money because I have a genuine interest in it. Right? That long-term play out. I can see me doing this for the long haul. Okay. So it's really important to think about the long term when we're talking career.
Yep, I like it. Yeah, this next one, Merle, I think that this for me, this has always been something that I have tried to live out. Man, this idea of being consistent, being persistent in what you're doing, man, we talk all the time, men are called into action. If you passively sit by with this, if you've applied for these jobs and things just aren't coming through and you're like, God, and you get down in the dumps and then you start to get that burnout and then maybe it leads to depression, man, I would just encourage you that this road that you're jumping into, this new venture to try and find that dream job, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some turn downs. There's going to be some things that just don't go your way, right? But man, you have to continually press down on that and like, oh, it's okay that you didn't get that what you thought was a dream job. I remember when I was working 3 different part-time jobs, and I swear I was like, I know that God wants me at Norwood, the city of Norwood. That's where I want to work at. I didn't get that job. I landed Dayton. And man, I tell you what, I'm at Dayton now, and the experience that I've gotten from there, I never would have got at Norwood. So it's like just understanding that, okay, things aren't going your way. You think something's supposed to happen a certain way, and it doesn't. That's okay. Like, not that you got to necessarily like roll with the punches and go into another dead end job. Like, I'm not saying that at all, but I think it's okay to have the hiccups, but it's not okay to just throw your hands up and just, oh, okay, well, this is happening to me again, right? Take action. Men are called into action. Take a hold of what's going on and understand if you want it, go get it.
Well, the persistence part that you talk about is the idea that sometimes we can lose the drive to stay persistent because we think that there's no value in what we're doing. We're getting beat up. And so I think that's an important thing to realize, as you just said, no matter where you are, maybe you're not in your dream job yet, but no matter where you are, there is something that we believe God is trying to teach you. Well, you know what? And we see this a lot of times with young guys. They right away want to come out and they want to make six figures. They want to have all of the perks. They want all that. And they're 24 years old. Okay. And so the idea is like, what do you mean I have to wait for? No, the journey has lots to teach you.
Oh my goodness.
And when you sit where you are in a job and go, you know what, maybe it's not my dream job, but what can I glean out of this? What is it teaching me? Okay. Maybe it's humbling me. Maybe it's teaching me a new skill. Maybe it's showing me something I never saw. That allows me to say, oh, I'm going to stay in the water here. I'm going to keep swimming. And so that persistence is important because no matter where you are, there is something for you to learn about yourself and the situation in that current place.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, as we're getting ready to close this show out, I think let's go over some things to remember when you are seeking that dream job. So we're in this place where we're making a decision. We're gonna move to another dream. We're gonna move to another job because right now we feel like a dead end job, or we're gonna try and change our mindset where we think right now it's a dead end job. We're gonna try and move into understanding that where we're at now it is a dream job. So this is really big for me. I try and do this in most mornings when I'm heading to work. I try and really pray for this. Like, God, come along for this. I'm inviting you into my life. God is standing at your heart. He's knocking. Man, he just has to be asked to come in on this. Right? Bring him along for this ride, because again, to try and do this by yourself, it's not going to be fun. And I'll raise my hand here. I've tried to do this idea of moving in a different direction by myself before, and it just ain't working, right? So man, I think just praying that God, inviting God into what you're going through, because if it's messy, if it's dirty, if it's not fun, if you're stuck in the rut, man, who better to understand and to bring along than God? Yeah.
When you talk about bringing God, I think of two things too. I need to give God the glory. He's giving me talents. He's giving me resources. He's giving me opportunity. I need to give God the glory. I'm not the one who created the things that I have in terms of talent. So that's how we talked about earlier, the idea of making my identity. It could be my job because I give it back to God, saying, well, it's God that gave me this ability to be the fireman or whatever. Yep. So giving God the glory. The other thing I think it's really important is some of us call ourselves Christian, but we're only Christian in name and on Sundays. The idea of truly being Christian means I'm going to rely on God because he makes a promise that he will provide for our needs. And so when you are going through these storms, when you feel like you are going without, that you actually say, I took a job that's paying me less than I wanted, but I'm going to trust that God's going to provide for me and my family. I'm going to trust, because it's not that you're sitting on the couch doing nothing. If you're working within God's will, God promises that he will provide. That's why he wants to be brought in. And when you're doing what he designed you to do, I don't know how, but all of a sudden, the next thing you know, hey, we're making our bills. Hey, this happened and we got this covered. Hey, we have a new opportunity. So that's why God, you want to invite him in and you want to stay in his will. For sure. Yeah. I mean, what about this idea that it's not about you, right? Especially if you have what? Oh man, you just blew me away there. Especially if you have a wife and you have kids, it's not about you. Right. And this is hard to set aside your pride and your ego, because in a lot of ways, myself included, it's like,
this is my job, right? This is my career. This is directly affecting me, right? But man, let's understand that it's not about you. It's about other people, whether it is your spouse, whether it is your kids. What about your coworkers, right? Because if you come every day and you are in that burnout phase, or you're like, this is a dead end job, and you bring with you a shitty attitude, how is that gonna play out with your coworkers, right? How is anybody gonna see who God is in your life if you come in with that attitude and you're like down in the dumps? Again, everyone's allowed to have a bad day, right? I'm not saying that every day you got to show up and you got to be on your A game. I don't think that's realistic to say, but I just think understanding that it's the bigger picture, right? That it's more than just about you. The world doesn't revolve around you. There has to be this idea of service and sacrifice to other people.
Yeah, you mentioned the word service. That's what it's about, right? Like the idea of this is more than me just getting what I want. Who am I serving in the process? Last thing on that is, keep in mind that no matter where you are in your career search, you're not at the finish line, right? I mean, even if you are a retired person, you're not finished with work. There's always something more, all right? And so life is a long-term play out for us. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So the idea that I'm in a place right now I don't particularly like to be, all right, well, this too shall pass, but I have to be instrumental in helping move that along. So don't get caught up in where you are at this moment, but get more into the long-term play and finishing strong each day.
Good deal. Yeah, I think this week, man, if you feel like you're in that dream job, awesome. Try and find new things that are going to make that job fulfill you even more and fulfill your calling and what God has for you. If you feel like you're stuck in a dead end job and you feel like you need to get out of that, man, start going through some of these steps. If you need some help along the way, reach out. People, there's resources. Rock Solid Families. Reach out. Allow Merle and Linda to come alongside of you and figure this out together. Bring your spouse along this. Again, trying to do this by yourself, it ain't gonna work. Bringing God along for the ride, man. Again, because it can be a very daunting task to feel like especially if you're talking about giving up some financial incentives that you currently have. Like, man, there's some significant conversations that need to be had. But like, let's begin to have those conversations, because again, it's not about you. You're bringing your family along with this ride. You're bringing your coworkers, man. Don't be that guy that like, I got to work with Kyle again today, right? Like, let's begin to move out of that dead end job and into that dream job.
All right. So are you in a dead job or are you in a dream job? So you get to make that decision. All right. So again, if we can help in any way, like Kyle said, reach out to us at rocksolidfamilies.org, or you can call our office at 812-576-7625. We want to, again, thank our sponsors, Quality Auto Mart and Casey's Outdoor Solutions, for continuing to help us with our messaging through their sponsorship. So if you run into those guys, just thank them for the chance that they're giving us here. So why don't you sign us off and we will go to our dream job.
I like it. Yeah, guys, again, we got our new rollout here with Strong Dads on Real Life. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys want to be a part of that, if you want us to come interview and talk to you, we'll come to you. Reach out to us. As Merle said, that whether it be email or phone call, we'd love to come and see what kind of dream job you have. So yeah, go out there and be some strong dads.
Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.